Good day. In 1991, the true EU kicked off with a blue-tinted bang with the release of the Thrawn trilogy. This trilogy took place 10 years after Return of the Jedi and left a lot of unanswered questions. The first book to tackle the events after Return of the Jedi would be Truce at Bakura by Kathy Tears. This novel would pick up the same day the movie left off and would show that the Star Wars EU meant business. Every book would be part of a unified whole, and each book would build upon the universe. Finally, Kathy Tears is one epic lady. Not only does she shame all the fake Star Wars fans saying that there were never any women in Star Wars, but she is also a proponent of the EU. In an interview, she trashes Disney Star Wars and cites that they should have just gone with the old EU. Thanks, Kathy. Now, let's jump right into a galaxy not so far away. A few hours after the triumphant ending of Return of the Jedi, the real work begins. Luke and company have to deal with the new world that they have created. How do you take a rebellion to a republic? First things first, though, Luke got fucked up by Big Papa Palps and gets some much-needed medical attention after, getting enough volts to power Houston for an hour in high summer. Turns out getting zapped by Force Lightning causes one's bones to calcify. He gets treated but is told to rest a bit. Luke, don't rest a bit. Instead, he immediately gets back into the action and rescues Wedge. An Imperial drone ship has arrived in the Indoor system, and upon not finding the Imperial fleet or the Death Star 2, has set itself to self-destruct. Wedge wedges his hand between two contacts to stop the self-destruct system from going off. Luke saves him, as you would expect, and learns that the planet Bakura is under assault from some foul Xenos, and that the Emperor needs to send stormtroopers. At this time, stormtroopers became the everyday grunt of the Empire, not special forces. However, I gotta criticize this message. What are Gropos going to do against a fleet? With that in mind, though, perhaps a multi-mile-long ship is a big enough target for those nearsighted bastards to actually hit. The rebels then decide to mount an expeditionary mission to Bakura in an attempt to get them to join the rebellion. Shortly after the Battle of Endor, the rebellion would turn into the Alliance of Free Planets and then finally the New Republic. Luke gets promoted and takes command of the task force and is placed in command of the spacecraft carrier Flurry. This ship is a modified cargo hauler that has been donated to the Alliance by a resistance group. The ship also has a super-duper high-tech Intel Pentium 2 battle analysis computer that is supposed to help plan battles. Cortana laughs at its 2 megabytes of RAM. The Alliance forces arrive in the Bakura system only to find it under attack by the aforementioned Xenos. They have some strange ships. They're somehow powerful enough to take on the Imperials, but use fissionables, which is something so primitive that the UNSC would laugh at them. But they have an edge, apparently, because they've got droid starfighters? Luke picks up some strange force emanations from the droid starfighters as he fights them. The Rebs and Imps join forces and repel the Xenos. They forge a temporary ceasefire, and an agreement is made for Luke, Han, and Leia to go to the surface. While there, Luke meets a local politician that he takes a fancy to. Alas, spoiler alert, it goes nowhere outside of some fan art from 2003. The Imperials are led by your typical evil governor, but he puts aside his evilness for a bit to make a truce so that the Rebs and Imps can fight a common foe. And that common foe are space raptors named the Sisiruk. You thought I'd mispronounce that, didn't you? This is an awesome concept for Tears to pursue. Fighting imps was bound to get boring after a while, so having a new faction come to the table ensures that the Star Wars universe does not get stale. The Xenos have captured a Force-sensitive human named Dave Subaru, there we go. Dave is a viewpoint character for the novel, and is a creepy one at that. He has been brainwashed by the Sissy Rook into helping them 40K style steal the souls of humans to power their droid starfighters. Yes, you heard that right. Instead of making better computers, investing in better power sources, they went straight to stealing souls. Humanity took 40K years to figure that out. He and the Sissy Rook creepily take the souls of some humans in their chapters and take Star Wars from Mil SF to Horror SF, and it works excellently. Leia ends up getting visited by the guy who brutally tortured her, aka Anakin Skywalker, aka her dear old dad. Needless to say, she is not all that nice to him and throws his ghost ass out. Luke might have forgiven him, but Leia is not so nice, and well, Luke lost a hand, and Leia was brutally tortured and lost her planet. So, not much love there. Han and Leia poke around the planet and find that the imps only recently annexed Bakura, and that there was an active resistance at one time. Luke tries to get lucky with a politician named Grail Capistan, close enough. But Grail rebuffs him due to a religion so dumb that you would have thought it came from Berkeley or Portlandia. She believes, get this, that people with power take it from others. Not in a physical sense, but in a metaphysical sense. Run a small business? Well, someone in the universe will have less power because that small business owner has some measure of power. So Jedi are literally the great Satan due to having so much raw power that others will have less. In any event, things start to come to a head and the plot splits into individual threads. Luke gets captured by the Imperial Governor and given to the Sissy Rook after they state that they will leave the planet alone if they can get Luke so that they can steal more souls. Han and Leia begin to work with the Bakuran resistance, and finally the Sissy Rook attack in earnest. Truce at Bakura is definitely in the cream of the crop of Star Wars EU. As a Mill SF novel, it is top tier on its own with great characters and action. As a Star Wars novel, you have everything you want. You got a cool bad faction, you got new force powers, some great Luke moments, some great Han and Leia moments as well, and this novel shows them actually coming together as they work through their newfound feelings. If you want a good Star Wars novel to get you started with the EU, read this first and then try out the Thrawn trilogy. I guarantee that if you love Truce at Bakura, you will love the Star Wars EU. And so, I am GeneralLotz, wishing you good Aliens the Female War, and good Jurassic Park, or whatever makes you happy. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing, and if you can, please consider supporting me on Patreon so that I can continue bringing you this great content. The climax of the novel is hot and heavy. Giggity. Luke has been infected by parasites, and on Bakura, the resistance rises up to take down the governor. Luke is able to fight off the parasites for a bit and rescues Dave, and even gets him to be his apprentice for about 20 minutes. Remember, being a Padawan wasn't actually a thing yet, and until episode 1 in the EU, Luke only has apprentices and never Padawans. Luke and Dave are able to scare off all the Xenos from the ship that they were being held upon, because in Sissarukan religion, a Sissarook can't go to Sissarook heaven unless they die on their homeworld. Hence, they beat the Talon once two Force sensitives show up. Luke uses the Living Force to take down the parasites and takes command of the Sissarook command ship, the Shiruru, or something along those lines. Alas, Dave Subaru gets horribly burned when the Shiruru takes fire, and alas, he dies. But he dies a hero nonetheless. The battle is won, but the imps are still imps, aka Nutty as a hardcore SS man, so 2 seconds after the battle is won, they turn on the rebels and destroy the Flurry. The remaining rebs fight a desperate battle, and Han intends to kamikaze the main imp capital ship, but just in time, the resistance on Bakura take down the Imperial Governor and the Imperials surrender. With the day won, our heroes ride off into the sunset, ready for another adventure. Fun fact, the Shrug would be taken by the rebels and renamed after the guy who crashed his A-Wing into the Executor. Arnold Art Carney, there we go. Sadly, the Art Carney would end up being destroyed in a later battle. One final fun fact, the 90s were awesome. This book would be sold with some micro machines. That's right, a legitimate book would be sold with fucking toys. You got a Shiruru and a Flurry. Alas, this is not in my collection, but it's an awesome thing nonetheless.